Hiya folks, so this is an introduction to functions and the vertical line test. So you might have seen some of these terms before. So domain, range, okay, so domain, that's the number that you put into a function, and range, that's the number that you get out of a function. So a function is like a box, you put a number in and then you get a number out, so an input and an output. To be a function, only one arrow can come from the domain. So it's okay if it goes to two part of the range, two arrows go to that, but only one arrow can come from the domain. So I'll give you an example there. If you had so this is an example of a function. So if I had -2 and I had 2, so if I was to square both of those numbers, they both go to the same thing. So -2 would go, because -2 squared is -2 times -2 is 4, it goes to 4, but also 2 squared goes to 4. So that's an example of where they go to the same thing in the range, but it's not okay for, say, the number 2 to go to two different things. So that's a little bit about what a function is. Here's examples of functions. So the first function, f of x equals 4x plus 3. So you're going to put, if you put a number in, if you put any number in, you're going to times it by 4 and then add 3, and that gives you your output. That's the first function. The second function is 3x squared, so you're squaring the number you put in first and then multiplying it by 3. So let's go through these examples. So first one, f of 3, we're just going to put a 3 in instead of the function f. So just be careful, don't put it, if it says f, don't put it into g. So that's just going to be 4 times 3 plus 3. So 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3, which is 15. So f of 3 would be 15 there. Second one, g of -1. So you're going to put that into the function g because it says g. So that's 3 times -1 squared. So just remember BIDMAS, then you have to square it first. So -1 squared is +1. So we end up getting 3 there. Third one, it's asking us for f of 2k. So you can be asked to put another variable like k in as well. So f of 2k is equal to, it'll be 4 times 2k plus 3. So you're just putting exactly what it is in, so you're just putting 2k in, so that's 8k plus 3, and then we don't know anything more about k, so that's just the answer. That's as far as you can go. Last one, g of k minus 3. So g of k minus 3, so I'm putting k minus 3, all of it, in instead of the x. So just be really careful. You have to put brackets around it and you have to square all of it. So that's going to be 3 times k minus 3 squared. So you're putting the k minus 3 in instead of the x, so it's all of the k minus 3, so not just k squared or 3 squared. So you can go and simplify that. You can leave it like that if you want. For this question, doesn't really ask you to do anything more, but you could multiply it out. So k minus 3, k minus 3, and then it's just multiplying out double brackets. So whatever way you've done that before, we'll leave the 3 there for a second, and then k squared minus 3k minus 3k, that's -6k plus 9, and then multiply all that by 3, it's going to be 3k squared minus 18k plus 27. So that's g of k minus 3. You don't, for this one, it didn't really ask you to do it all out like that, but that's how you would simplify it anyway. Right, here's 2 questions then. If you just want to look at them yourself, have a go at them for a minute or two, and then play on the video. If you want to pause the video, try them and then play it on, and I'll correct them. Right, so first one here anyway, mightn't have space for all of them, but it's g of 4. So g of 4 would be, you're just putting it in instead, so it's 4 minus 2 squared. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So final answer for the first one is 4. Second one, you're just putting in a minus 4, so g of minus 4 equals, it'll be minus 4 plus 2, all to be squared. So minus 4 plus 2 is minus 2, and then minus 2 squared is positive 4. So you actually get the same answer for both of those. The third one then, g of 8, so I'm just putting in, so g of 8 is equal to 8 minus 2, all to be squared, so that's 6 squared, which is 36. And the last one, S is g of a, so you're just putting an a in instead, so g of a is equal to a minus 2, all to be squared. And then you can multiply that out if you want, but you don't really have to. It doesn't ask you to, or it doesn't ask you to give it in any kind of form. So that's a squared minus 2a minus 2a plus 4, so a squared minus 4a plus 4. Right, this question is a separate question. I should have had it said that it's a separate question, but this notation here, fr onto rx onto 3x minus 4, that's the same thing as a normal function. Don't get too bogged down on that. So for what value of k is f of k plus f of 2k equal to 0? Well, this is f of x anyway, so all that in there just means f of x equals 3x minus 4. So you'll be given that kind of notation as well. It's telling you what number system it's using, the reals there onto the reals. So f of x is 3x minus 4. So then f of k would have to be 3k minus 4. That should be straightforward enough. So if f of x is 3x minus 4, f of k is 3k minus 4. Plus, and now we have to say what f of 2k is. So I'm going to put a 2k in instead of the x, instead of this x here. So if I put a 2k in instead of that x, I would have 3 times 2k, so that's 6k. And then it's just minus 4. And then it's telling us that all of that is equal to 0. So we get an equation here. So you can be asked these things with functions as well. So 3k plus 6k would be 9k there. Minus 8 is equal to 0. So 9k is equal to 8. Bring across the 8. So k is equal to 8 over 9. And we're done. So that's just a different type of question you could be asked with functions. So you have to kind of play around with them a little bit. But it's using the same thing. It's putting something in and using it. Right, last thing I just want to go on to is, it's called a straight line test. Right, so if you look back up here, I had this up in the top. So vertical line test, when looking at a graph, any vertical line can only cut the graph once, okay, to be a function it should have. Right, so otherwise it's not a function. So any vertical line can only cut the graph once. So have a look there. So think about drawing vertical lines on these graphs now. And if you want to have a think about it there for a second, if you want to pause the video or whatever. So think about drawing a vertical line anywhere on the graph. And it should only cut it once if it's a function. If it's not, then it's not a function. So you should be able to see they're kind of the awkward looking ones, or usually the ones that aren't functions anyway. If you want to have a think about it for a second there. So the first one anyway, that is a function. Okay, if I draw a vertical line anywhere on that, so it should be a straight vertical line obviously, but if I draw a vertical line anywhere on that, it only cuts the graph once. Okay, so that is a function. Okay, or yes, it is a function. Okay, so let's look at the second one here. So you should be able to see early enough that if you draw a vertical line there on that, now it cuts it twice. So that's enough to say then that it's not a function. So, and obviously if you draw one anywhere in here, you're cutting it twice as well. So it's not a function. Right, so out here is okay, it only cuts it once, but when it goes in, it starts to cut it twice. The third one here, it is a function as well. I know it gets a little bit squashed in here in the middle, but if you draw a vertical line anywhere along it, it only cuts it once, so therefore it is a function. So the vertical line test is something you can be asked in a short question, so it's very simple, so it's you just need to remember it.